Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this edition of the 700 Club. And I want to ask my lovely co-hostess a question. Who do you think is #1 host on cable television?
Well, it used to be Bill O'Reilly. I know that for long time.
Long gone.
#1 host on cable, news host, right?
Yeah.
Sean Hannity?
No. Way ahead of everybody, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC.
Way ahead.
Way ahead of everybody. And next, I think Sean is probably in tops with Fox, but MSNBC is beating everybody, which is sort of amazing.
They used to be #3. I don't know what's happened.
Well, they used to be the bottom of everything, but no longer. So, Rachel, you won. She's #1 with demos, which is the key demo. #1 with total viewers. I mean, way ahead. I mean, amazing. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, there's something else that's going on in Washington, a potential trade war. And again, the total, well, I asked our guys to check, what's the total debt worldwide around, I mean, everybody? It's about $233 trillion. All right. So the president says a trade war would be a good thing. Yeah, sure. You've got a barrel of powder, and you're going to run a lighted torch over that barrel of powder to see if it blows up or if you can play chicken. $233 trillion. And if that thing blows, there's no stopping it. And that's the thing we've got to be concerned about. But Gary Cohn, who was the president's economic advisor, has quit. He said, this thing may start a trade war, and I don't want no part of it. So who is the president you want to pick now as economic advisor? Is he going to go for, well, who will he go for? But is he going to make the concessions? Well, what's going to happen?
You know, do you really think he should have got out right now? I mean, maybe the president needs it. Maybe you stick in, you stay in the fight, and you do the work.
Well, you do the work, but, I mean, if you're totally in agreement, this guy was president of Goldman Sachs. I mean, he's a big player, and this is so far contrary, and if it blows up, he'll be blamed for it, and he carried that tax cut through. He's done some other amazing things, and you know, who are they going to put in the place? So it's. But as I say, $233 trillion. The world can't survive a trade war. We just can't. I mean, you just don't play games with that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Republicans are also concerned that the tariffs could hurt their chances for midterm congressional elections. Heather Sells has that.
The president has lost his top economic policymaker, and that has his critics forecasting gloom and doom. But the president says he has plenty of options for open positions in his administration.
So many people want to come in. I have a choice of anybody. I could take any position in the White House, and I'll have a choice of the 10 top people having to do with that position. Everybody wants to be there.
Gary Cohn is a former Wall Street executive. He played a key role in helping the president achieve his tax overhaul plan.
Come here, Gary. Come here. Are you happy, Gary? He just passed a very big bill. I think he's pretty happy.
But Cohn also fought the president on his plan to impose tariffs on steel and aluminum coming into the country, a battle he lost.
I'm protecting our workers. I'm protecting our companies.
The top candidates to replace Cohn? White House trade advisor Peter Navarro, who has defended the tariffs.
The reason why the president is doing this is because if he doesn't do this, we will lose our aluminum industry very quickly and our steel industry very quickly thereafter.
The other top candidate is conservative economist Larry Kudlow, a CNBC commentator who says tariffs on steel and aluminum will raise prices and hit other sectors of the economy.
There's 154 million Americans who work. That's the bigger number. They are going to be affected by steel price hikes.
The tariff issue could also spill over into politics, amid concerns that tariffs might hurt the economy, and that could be a problem for Republicans in this year's midterm elections. The GOP wants to campaign on strong economic footing. And Canada, the UK, and the European Union oppose the tariffs, with the EU threatening countermeasures if they go into effect. On Tuesday, the president hinted at some flexibility, possibly avoiding tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And on Monday, he tweeted tariffs on steel and aluminum will only come off if new and fair NAFTA agreement is signed. Many Republicans are hoping for a compromise, but it appears the president is serious about imposing at least some tariffs in the days ahead. Heather Sells, CBN News.
I tell you, two people are driving cars together. The kids used to do that. They played chicken and they ran their cars as fast as they could and then dumped out to see who got out first before there was a crash. Whew. I just don't want to see chicken. I don't want to see this world economy go to pieces like it did in '29. We can have that again. Well, in other news, man, it's going to be a big one. The Northeast is getting ready for more snow today, up to 1.5 feet in some places. Ephraim Graham has that.
Pat, another nor'easter is threatening communities on the East Coast. The winter blast comes as people in the region have still been trying to bounce back following last week's storm.
We have a lot of concerns about the incoming storm. With all the wires down and trees down, we might bury them in the snow. So now we're doubling the hazard, a hazard you can't see.
100,000 people are still without power. Today, there will be mostly rain from Virginia to New Jersey, but from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts, there could be several inches of snow, with up to 1.5 feet in upper New England. Several governors in the Northeast have already declared states of emergency. American policymakers and analysts have been considering the latest offer from North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, signaling he would consider a change to his nuclear weapons arsenal. But many are wondering if the proposal is real or simply a stalling tactic. Our national security correspondent Eric Rosales gives us a deeper perspective.
South Korean officials say after meeting face-to-face with Kim Jong-un, the North regime would be willing to talk with the U.S. about giving up its nuclear weapons. During these negotiations with the South, North Korea will also stop additional nuclear and missile tests. The delegation has said that the North has also agreed to never use nuclear or conventional weapons against South Korea. A hotline will be set up between the two countries, and the North is also asking for another summit to be held in April.
We need to pay attention to this because, in my opinion, the biggest danger that North Korea presents is the ability to damage our alliances in Asia and damage our ability to remain an Asian power.
A divide-and-conquer approach, says former Assistant Secretary of Defense, retired Lieutenant General Wallace Gregson. He tells CBN News, while Kim Jong-un skillfully portrayed the North as a friendly neighbor during the Olympics, he cannot be trusted.
Part of our response has to be to make sure that we strengthen our alliances and that we do not allow North Korea to drive a wedge between us.
Others warn South Korea must keep its guard up.
Talking by itself is not so dangerous. It's that it often lures you into doing other things that are very bad ideas, whether downplaying threats that you should be focused on or getting so committed to the process, so desperate to reach some sort of agreement that you start to pay off the other side to keep them at the table.
President Trump believes strong sanctions and help from China have changed North Korea's attitude.
The sanctions have been very, very strong and very biting, and we don't want that to happen. So I really believe they are sincere. I hope they're sincere. We're going to soon find out.
Pentagon top brass tells CBN News they're encouraged by the talks but remain cautiously optimistic. But make no mistake, these new talks represent a new chapter in the long, tense saga between the United States and North Korea. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
Pat, what do you think?
I think they're liars. I think they've been liars, and they've played this over and over again. You see, what they want us to do, you lift the sanctions, okay, and you don't have any combined military exercises anymore, okay? And all of a sudden they say, well, we've changed our mind. We think we ought to do some more testing. And they can do a lot of it secretly, and they're apparently sending chemical weapons down into Syria. They're exporting their deadly weaponry, and they are not about to give up. They're a crime family that runs the country, and they're not going to give up their power, no way. It was an interesting thing. The lady who showed up at the Olympics, that nice-looking Korean woman, they said, wasn't she sweet? We should have been nice to her. She should have met with Vice President Pence and so forth. She is head of propaganda of North Korea. She is one of the most vicious of them all. And They hide under a smokescreen and they want to lull us to sleep. Not smart. And so you don't lift the sanctions, you don't stop your military exercises, and maybe you can get something concrete out of those people, but I don't really believe it. So, Ephraim, your call. What's next?
Pat, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was highlighted at this week's American-Israel Public Affairs Committee Policy Conference. He delivered a speech yesterday addressing the dangers from Iran and other potential threats to Israel. Our Amber Strong has this look at the Prime Minister's message to Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pretty happy with President Trump and wasted no time telling the pro-Israel crowd at the AIPAC Policy Conference.
It's especially great to be in America's capital now that he has recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Fresh off of Monday's Oval Office meeting, Netanyahu made it very clear that his relationship with this White House was stronger than ever.
We appreciate the efforts of President Trump's superb team. Thank you all for your hard work for peace.
When it comes to the state of Israel, Netanyahu got right to it, breaking down what he calls the good, bad, and beautiful facing the country. The good? Israeli technology and defense, like their famous Iron Dome, which he says is due in part to U.S. support.
Thank you, Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike.
He also called out those who don't back Israel, specifically supporters of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement known as BDS.
Pretty soon, the countries that don't have relations with us, they're going to be isolated.
But what about the bad? Netanyahu pointed straight to one place.
We must stop Iran. We will stop Iran.
He condemned President Obama's 2015 Iran nuclear agreement and said Iran, along with surrounding nations, are looking for ways to attack.
Last week we read in the book of Esther about an earlier Persian attempt to exterminate our people. They failed then, they'll fail now.
Netanyahu's list didn't include his mounting legal troubles. On Monday, a former top aide agreed to turn state's evidence against the prime minister in a potential bribery charge. Instead, Netanyahu focused on what he calls the beautiful, U.S.-Israel relations, especially when it comes to pro-Israel legislation.
Israel hopes that the passage of the Taylor Force Act will make clear to President Abbas that America has zero tolerance for terror.
That call for congressional support was clear at AIPAC, with congressmen from both sides of the aisle vowing to back the Jewish state.
The security of the United States is strong when our bond with Israel is strong.
But while there may be bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, Senator Marco Rubio says it's a different story in the classroom.
I'm deeply concerned about what's happening in many American college campuses and the sort of embedded anti-Semitism that we see.
Now, over the last couple of days, about 3,600 students have made their way through AIPAC. And that's exactly what organizers say they want to see, a future built on a solid foundation of U.S.-Israel relations. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Good visit from the Prime Minister. Pat?
You know, I was reading today in the Bible where Jesus was talking about Luke 21. He was talking about the last days. And he says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden underfoot of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. That is a prophetic word that I was waiting for, and we've all been waiting for. And when in 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel took over Jerusalem, and the times of the Gentiles, like the clock, has started to tick. And if the nations of the world begin to move against Israel, which it looks like in the United Nations they're against Israel, we're about the only nation. There may be one other like Honduras or something like that, or Guatemala, but only a couple of small nations are with Israel. We are the only one, and the nations of the earth, but Jerusalem shall be trodden underfoot of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So the clock's been ticking on the Gentile nations. As I said at the beginning of this program, I think we've got to look at this huge debt crisis. It is much bigger than you think, and President Trump You know, God bless him. I really appreciate what he's doing. But the one thing that he isn't really addressing is the mounting deficit, the huge deficits that this country is running and the other nations of the world. And you look at $233 trillion. That is an enormous amount of money. And what will happen? Well, until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled, the nations of the earth are against Israel. The United States I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. I believe that the blessing of God will be on this nation as long as we are defenders of Israel. And if we ever, as a nation, turn against Israel, and that was what happening under the Obama administration, we turned against Israel. And thank God we changed that policy, and we're going to be defended. God will look after this nation if we look after Israel. It's a very important prophetic thing. Ephraim?
Pat, a huge number of Americans are nowhere near ready for retirement. 42% have less than $10,000 saved for retirement, and 14% have absolutely nothing saved. Overall, half of those surveyed had less than $50,000 saved. That is according to a new study from Go Banking Rates. The main reason most people haven't saved enough, they say they don't earn enough, along with the fact that they're struggling to pay their bills. But many experts say people still should make a way to make retirement savings a priority. Pat?
Wendy, how are you fixed for retirement? We love you. You don't have a job here forever.
I've got, you know, my 401k, or I think we call it something different here, but, you know, I've got my 401k.
Yeah, ours is the 403B, I think. But
under Trump, it's been fantastic. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch, except lately it's kind of, you know.
You know, from Social Security, what will people get? $5,000, $6,000, you know, a month or something like that. It'll be minuscule, and there's not enough money for people to live on. What will happen when people are getting older and the baby boomers turn retirement age, and there's no money to retire on except Social Security, and that's not near enough? What are they going to do?
No. I want to maintain my lifestyle.
Yeah, but I mean, how do we do it? I mean, what this survey shows that the American people don't have savings, and if a crisis comes, they don't have any savings.
You got to pay yourself, don't you?
If they started out a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, compounding over the years, that it adds up into several $1 million. But if they don't have it, then it's a problem. And ladies and gentlemen, it's never too late to start saving, and we're going to talk about it's never too late to stay young.